Oh no, Saints fans, we got some bad news, and I'm going to tell you what it is in today's video. My name is Trizzy Trace Girouard. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's show. Free agency in terms of the class and the quality players starting to dwindle, and you're starting to lose sight of who you can go and sign because some of the top names are already off the market. So we're going to dive into the latest free agency news in today's video. But before we get to that, I'm just so tired of bad news. I'm tired of the negativity. I'm tired of our fan base being pissed off. I mean, rightfully so, but I'm tired of it. So if you're tired of the negativity, you want some good vibes around the New Orleans Saints, hit that thumbs up icon and like this video. If you agree with this statement, you better like this video. Alrighty, so first things first, Teven Jenkins, the offensive guard, he is signed with the Cleveland Browns. In my personal opinion, the New Orleans Saints should have done their homework to try and bring him in. So obviously, he is off the market. That means one less option is available in free agency. However, another option is now unavailable. Lucas Patrick, a name that was with the New Orleans Saints last year. He spent some time as a starter, then dealt with some injuries and was ultimately unable to play the entire season as the starting left guard. But in the run that he played, especially those first 2 weeks, he was really, really good. And honestly, before his injury that initially took him out for the season, he was playing really good football for New Orleans. And when you look at the current offensive line group, I was okay with bringing back Lucas Patrick for the right price. I was definitely interested in signing Teven Jenkins, and I still think that left guard is a position in need. I still don't love Cesar Ruiz. He's a player that I find a little bit frustrating. However, I'm also willing to say that right guard is not nearly as big of a need as left guard. Nick Saldiveri, if he can stay healthy, he hasn't had a lot of run, but the reason the Saints traded up to draft him in the first place was because of the positional versatility. And so far, it hasn't been all of that great for Nick Saldiveri. But when it comes to Teven Jenkins, I really think that the Saints should have tried to bring him in. And I don't know if they did. I don't know if they didn't have a meeting. There's nothing reported in terms of Saints being interested. But I wish they would have at least tried because he was the best offensive guard available on the market. So now the New Orleans Saints have to pick up, they have to pivot elsewhere. And, I obviously think that you can address this need in the draft. But for me personally, I am not really in the camp of let's go draft an offensive guard and then let's have him start week one. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. I don't think it's a good plan. So, here are the free agents that are currently available in terms of the top 4 available guards. Brandon Scherff at 33 years old, Will Hernandez at 29, Shaq Mason at 31, and Dalton Risner at 29. Risner I think is a solid option, but I also think that Will Hernandez is a player that should be explored. Shaq Mason is a guy that's a good name, but, he just hasn't played great football in the most recent, run that we've seen from him. But I will say let's hone in on Will Hernandez because he's a player that, maybe is worth at least exploring. The PFF grades and the production last year was pretty damn impressive if you ask me. An overall grade of 69.3. His pass block grade was a 74.2. The run blocking grade was 66 even. 2 penalties, 0 sacks allowed, and 8 pressures. Obviously, he's 29 years old, and I think that the Saints should give him a call. Quite frankly, you need offensive line depth, and you need some more players, especially high-end talent on the interior offensive line. Eric McCoy's great. Cesar Ruiz is fine, I guess. But, I would argue that left guard is a bigger position in need than either of the tackle spots. And so for me, I would rather go add a guard, a veteran guard with some experience in free agency rather than draft another one just to compete and start. Because quite frankly, if you're competing with Nick Saldiveri, sure, that might be able to encourage him to play a little bit better, but I don't know if he's a starter. He hasn't really proven that yet. That doesn't mean he can't turn into one. I just don't know if Saldiveri is a true starter in this league. We'll have to see what happens. At the bare minimum, he's a good depth piece, so we'll have to see. But long story short, we are on the road to 50,000 subscribers. So if you are a part of the Who Dat Nation, this is the channel for you. Diehard Saints fan. I'm a diehard Saints fan. I know I got my Arkansas Razorback here, but I can tell you one thing. I was bleeding black and gold a lot longer before I started calling those hogs. So if you want daily Saints content by Saints fans for Saints fans, this is the place to be. Hit that sub button for 100% free coverage. So let's also talk about Dillon Radunz because he's a player that Jeremy Fowler recently reported will be visiting with the New Orleans Saints. He has had some run as a guard and as a tackle with the Tennessee Titans, and he's spent his entire NFL career with the Titans. He started 15 games in 2024. And I will tell you this, he's only 26 years old. So the youth and the ability to possibly be healthy and still provide some good football play is definitely there. He was a second-round pick back in 2021 out of North Dakota State, and he has spent, like I said, his entire career out in Nashville. So his PFF grades, I like to show PFF grades for offensive linemen specifically because it is kind of hard to tell and grade and look at what each player is doing. And I think Pro Football Focus does a good job of kind of just giving you a general consensus. But the fact that he allowed 6 sacks and 23 pressures and 5 total penalties, that kind of makes me a little bit nervous. But again, you're running out of options. You're running out of players to possibly sign. And for the snap alignment for Dillon Radunz, I mean, you have a guy who has a lot of experience at the right guard spot. Most of those came this past season. If you don't have him play this past season at right guard, then there's a lot of snaps at left guard and at right tackle. Those are the 2 leading ones. But obviously, last year he spent most of his season as a right guard. So, it goes back to the conversation. You have Cesar Ruiz, and he's your right guard. Dillon Radunz has experience at the left guard spot and at both tackle positions. He actually has experience everywhere across the offensive line except for center. So, at the end of the day, Dillon Radunz is a player. Maybe it makes some sense. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know if I would bring him in. I think that at the bare minimum, you can get him for a cheap contract, and he's quality depth to have around. And, there is some upside. There is upside, and there is, not a lot of risk there because he is 26 and probably don't have to pay him all that much money. You also do have quite a bit of money to spend in free agency. I know that the Saints recently brought back Brandon Cooks, but you should still have over $25 million to spend this year. So, you can still address this need in free agency. Now, I will also tell you, if you want to get this awesome shirt, shoutsports.com/Camara shirt. I was talking to my producer, Nick Lopez, and he was saying, man, these types of shirts are my absolute favorite. And he bought his with this link down in the comment section and description of this video. Chatsports.com/Camara shirt. Get yours today. All right, so I will also add there is more depth on the roster in terms of the depth chart. If you remember, they also brought back Will Clapp and they re-signed Landon Young. So it's not like the Saints haven't addressed the offensive line whatsoever. I do believe you have to address offensive line in the draft. Go and draft a guard, maybe also a tackle, but definitely you have to bring in somebody that can add bodies into the interior offensive line. Because quite frankly, that part was where the Saints struggled the most last year, and that part of the roster definitely needs a facelift. So what should the Saints do to fix their O-line? Let me know in the comment section. Do you want them to go sign a certain player, trade for a guy, draft somebody? Do you want them just to develop better? Do you want them to hire a certain coach? Like, what do they got to do? Let me know down in the comment section. If you're a real ball knower, share your thoughts. Now, guys, friendly reminder, before you click out of today's video, subscribe to the channel. We've been giving you guys coverage all throughout the offseason. We give you guys videos all throughout the regular season and hopefully the playoffs as well. So, Saints fans, it's an exciting time. Not a lot of changes occurred, but some changes occurred. This is still an important offseason. There's still a lot of things that can happen, and that's why you should subscribe to Saints Now. My name is Trizzy Trace Girouard. For my guy, Nick Lopez, y'all stay golden, and we'll see you next time.